Greetings, Ranger fans, and welcome to another edition of Database Rangers Power Reviews, where we look back on our classic episodes of Database Rangers Power Reviews as we count down the 100 weeks to the 100th and final episode. So, welcome to all of you who are already in the chat. I see we've got Jenny, Rudy, Sean, Chris. Chris, glad to hear that you're feeling better. Yes, Rudy, TGIF indeed. And yeah, Sean, I can't believe it. You are correct. There are only, oh, nope. Yeah. Okay, so it looked like I froze up for a little while there, but I should be back. So there we go. Welcome Nightwing Josh, welcome Scott. Good to see you both. Congratulations on your Honor Society induction, Jenny. I hope that goes well for you. Yeah, I had accidentally hit a button that did a bad thing. It's been a very long day. It's been a very long week. We had some car trouble earlier tonight, so it was a little bit of a hectic evening. So I'm a little frazzled, but we're doing fine. Just keeping very, very busy. What I was saying before I somehow apparently disconnected myself briefly was I have been hard at work on episode 96. I'm still just in that stage where I have a few pickup shots and scenes from the conclusion to shoot. And it really just comes down to I have there's some prop work I need to work on and some effects work I need to work on to make sure that those shots will work out. So yeah, there's just I've shot so much footage over the course of the last 6 weeks or so. I think over the course of the last 6.5 weeks, I've shot probably close to 10 hours of footage. There's still some left to go. I've actually been keeping an eye on out of curiosity just how much stuff I've shot. And it's been a little exhausting. Welcome, Kevin. Good to see you. So I hope you're having a good week as well. But yes, once I get those final scenes worked out with the conclusion, I should be able to finally mark a release date for 96. I'm hoping to be able to release it by the end of February. Possibly may end up being first week of March. Just 2 months, basically 2 months after the last one. And I'm going to try to continue to narrow that. These final episodes are a lot of work, but we're getting there. And I'm hoping to have a productive summer as we work on the final episodes, like the final 3. And knocking on wood that I can hit that 10-year mark. Welcome, Raphael. I'm glad to hear you like the videos. So, speaking of which, we should take a look at the subject of the commentary for this evening. But before we do, let us not forget, as always, our 3 equally non-controversial phrases. So, these are all phrases we should all consider equally non-controversial in our day and age. So, number 1, say with me, chat, Black Lives Matter. Number 2, say with me, chat, fascism is bad. And number 3, say with me, chat, superheroes are fun. These are all should be a common baseline we can agree to. So, and happy Super Bowl weekend to those of you who celebrate. I keep forgetting that it's Super Bowl weekend. I don't follow the sports ball. But it is now time to dive into our favorite superhero, one Mr. Database Ranger, as we take a look at Database Rangers Power Reviews, episode 65. Our review of Power Rangers Mystic Force, episode 6, Legendary Catastros. Where's the... Oh, do I have it muted right now? Give me a moment. Gotta fix that mute. Why is it... Come on. Let me try that again. Checking to see what's going on there. Come on, Site. Don't be muted. That's rude. There we go. Alright, now let's take it from the top. There's that big booming voice.
You're super secret agent, man. Kay's a dimension-hopping super genius, and DB is a Power Ranger. What does that make me?
And here we go, our Mayo focus episode of the Summer Saga. Which again was just such a fun experiment in character focus and layering of storylines. And this is again where we're teasing Mayo's backstory that we still haven't quite fully established at this stage, but later was revealed in much more detail in episodes 87 and 90. And that car collision that I absolutely love.
Initiating recall procedure now. Does anybody want to talk about what this happened was? Okay.
And now.
And one thing that I deliberately did with each of these episodes.
Greetings, Ranger fans, and welcome to Mayo.
Okay.
We look forward to.
Is that, as you can see, not only do I have Greetings, Ranger fans, and welcome to the character of focus, but also one thing that I made sure of is that I have a habit of, if it doesn't end on what or let the power protect you, whatever line it ends on, that's the line that the next episode starts on. And since these were all overlapping, I deliberately made sure that there was an okay at the beginning and end of each of these episodes to create that chain and create that bookending effect.
T Alpha and T Beta, they're back.
Wait, you mean those creeps that kidnapped me? I thought they got sucked through that transdimensional tear thing.
They did. Okay, any theories?
It's hard to
And
say.
now we're getting what the conversation was after the Morpotsners left. Meanwhile, we know the Morpotsners are like going in and out of their closet and getting ready for bed.
Well, they did sort of keep phasing in and out, especially whenever they separated.
That would make sense.
And here we're just trying to get a handle on what happened with T Omega. Which, you know, obviously just kind of got breezed right over in the Morpotsners episode.
Let's just hope they stay there this time.
Alright, I think I'm going to call it a night then, unless there's any more super agents or soup agents or bad guys out there I have to worry about.
I think you're safe.
Okay, I'll see you guys in the morning.
Also, I felt like I had to do the super soup gag. And now we have Mayo leaving and going over to the Morpotsner's place. And obviously there's conversation that Mayo's missing out on as she goes to sleep on the Morpotsner's couch. And, you know, I made sure to have a close-up on the couch so it's not obvious that it's no longer in the same apartment.
Hello? I need you here. Now. Okay? What is it? Can you please move quickly? I'll be right there.
And this was the bit that the Morpotsners saw the, "Yeah, I'll be right there," as Mayo got up to leave the couch. And again, I'm making sure to film at these spots to give the impression that they're going in and out of a different door.
Hey, talk to me.
What's going on? Put your thumb here, okay?
And again, we're coming into a situation where we don't know the full context, but it's giving us a little bit more of the context of the scene at the beginning of episode 64.
Now hold still. Why? You want to be safe from people like T Omega? Then follow my instructions.
Kate, you're scaring me right now.
Now open that door.
Let's just hold on a minute. Guy, could you help me out here? Hi.
And here are the Morpotsners arriving. And yeah, this is still as much work as I put into this shot, and a lot of it came out quite good. There's still little glitches in there I'm disappointed by. And
Okay.
Mayo was the first one through the portal.
Wait!
And here we have
Yes! You!
Quandry.
Stay right there!
I apologize, sources. I meant no offense.
And Quandry is obviously very curious over how
Created a hole in the sky.
how Mayo just
What else
arrived
could you
here
do
in the
with
forest.
I'm pretty sure it was more of a trans-dimensional quantum event triggered by an advanced propagation of... You know what? Let's just go with magic.
A very powerful magic indeed to bring you to Sumerian forest.
Sumerian forest?
And the Sumerian forest.
Oh. Don't worry, it's just my mystical spell book.
And that's just such a funny line
My locator spell isn't working.
in context with what it will become by the end of this episode. Her tablet does become a mystical spellbook after this episode. By the end of this episode,
That would be great.
I am at your service.
I still find that very funny.
And you can call me Mayo, by the way.
Very well, Mr. Smith. I am called Quandry the Bard.
Oh yes, and I had heard that Power Rangers should be coming back soon. Dino Fury should be coming back soon. We don't have an exact date, to my knowledge, on Netflix.
I still have a lot left to learn. May I entertain you with a tale while we travel?
Sure, go ahead. I'm always up
And
for a good story.
And I do enjoy playing around with these one-shot characters for them to partner with.
Legendary Catastros.
And oh, really? Come on, that should not be playing right now. Let me skip over that. As much as I hate destroying my own revenue. But yes, we did film this in an actual nearby wooded area. This is just on the outskirts of a local park. We live in an area where there are a lot of local parks, like an unreasonable number of local parks. And so I went just driving around to try and find which one had a really nice wooded area that had some good trails that we could be filming on. This was also a little bit of a challenge because my camera didn't have a great battery, so I was always need to make sure that it was fully charged before we did each filming, and we just filmed everything we could before the battery died. And, of course, I always like to...
Just out of curiosity, how did you get hip-hop synth music out of the live?
I know not what to speak. It was a dark and stormy night.
And this is our friend Grim, who yes, just so happened to basically have a lyre. He likes to do LARPing. He likes to do the Society for Creative Anachronism. So this was just a costume that he happened to own. With the exception of the cloak. The cloak is actually MJ's from when they were doing LARPing. So this was a very fun, very different kind of episode in a lot of regards. It was all shot outside. I'm very glad that we were able to find some place that was far enough from the woods, or from the roads. Sorry, a place far enough into the woods and far enough from the roads that we didn't get a lot of background noise, which was fantastic.
To rescue her from her creamy predicament, she taught Nick the spell of Venetia, promptly returning her to normal. But trouble was brewing down in the underworld. The brute Mordecai...
And I'm still a little sad that this is the only episode of Mystic Force we actually ultimately got to cover. Because, we do enjoy Mystic Force. It does have a special place for us because this was the first episode. This was the first season that we ever watched together. And we've watched basically every season of Power Rangers together since then. But this was our first date. Was the season premiere of Power Rangers Mystic Force. Because I figured it was a good way to let MJ know what they were in for with dating me. And truth be told, they had suggested that they enjoyed Power Rangers as well, and apparently had been checking out some SPD after finding out that I was enjoying it. So that worked out. It worked out pretty well, I think. almost 16 years later now. Yeah, actually, a week from Sunday will be 16 years that we've been dating. So 16 years since the premiere of Mystic Force.
haunted by Nick's mystic.
The Mystic Dragon was such a great combo. Like, honestly,
But a dragon,
um,
another beast.
I have almost all the Mystic Force swords, with the exception of the Phoenix Unizord / Cedar Corner Megazord, depending on what you want to call it. I love the designs on these swords. They're just very clean. I love that they have an alt mode that they can combine together into. Just very, very nice aesthetics on these swords.
So great is the treachery of evil that it even defeats itself.
Wow, that is both incredibly convenient and extremely contrived. Carry on.
Cass, the warrior,
And
determined not to let his foe escape,
I tried
ready
to
his
also
bravery to intervene,
vary up
erupted
the
his
shots
spell seal and splitting Catastros
when it
from
came to the little
and
cutaways.
and the beast
So there might be like a few shots that are shot in one location of the camera, and then we'll change up to a different location to make it feel like they're traveling through the forest. But we do kind of cycle through a few.
As you wish.
And you can see they keep stepping away from sort of the same area of the forest. Because we can only keep moving around so much before it stops really being productive.
He attempted to call his friends, but to no avail.
Great, no service for him either.
Suddenly, he heard a loud whinny behind his back.
Legendary Catastros also just worked really well as a parallel episode to their situation.
You are most sad, mistress. For it was indeed the beast stallion
I also kind of
As he fled
I also kind of
across
like that
the
little
grass
moment there
under
where
the
Grimm
sky,
kind of very briefly glances at the camera because he found that line funny, if I recall correctly. You're a most savvy
There was
mistress.
nothing that she or her crystal ball could do to send them. Knowing not what else to do, the four young
This was
forest, mourning the loss of their
this was
friend.
among
They were
various
joined
other
by
things.
unexpected
I
guests.
really liked having this ability to sort of play around with a
He had overheard
very much a
the events
standalone
of Nick's
adventure,
plan, and being a
which
poor
we
believer
don't get
in
too many
the
of in
great
Power
crusade on
Reviews.
the
Everything
previous
tends to be
consistent
very
with
serialized, or else if it is something of a standalone episode, it is more it is more just sort of a premise surrounding a couch review. But this is actually like a completely separate adventure with a little quest elements and an extra and a guest character, etc.
express the mildly underutilized
So I'm
Madison
glad that
and
if
she had
we
her
were
friends
only going to be able to have one Mystic Force episode
poring over Ivan's
in the
many
lineup,
spellbooks
I'm glad that
somehow
we were able to
Now let's skip ahead.
make it such a heavily Mystic Force themed kind of episode. Like it's actually set in the Sumerian Forest, which is a canonical location in Mystic Force. If I recall correctly, they traveled through the Sumerian Forest in the episode Fireheart, and the Sumerian Forest is explicitly a location where magic does not work.
Exactly. But I don't have the device with me. The only other piece of technology in the area appears to be the R2 Sweet Tube.
And I love that Mayo just kind of directly references the camera, which did travel with her. So the original Squee
Not only is Root a great distance from here, but many of their
basically
volumes were destroyed on the day of
was
their
supposed to
last
go
day
with
back. It is
DB
likely the remainder
and
of the
K. The R2 Squee 2 went with Mayo. The 3 Squeepio
Very few of the great libraries still exist.
went with
Although I suppose the closest would be the Sumerian
Guy, and then the new Squee, the Squee number 4,
is the temple
stayed
that
with the
prevents magic from
Morposners.
existing within this forest. I know
And
spellcaster has entered and stolen
the whole reason I
thousands of
introduced
years.
4 different Squees was so that we could do this episode,
From here,
or this
about
series of
half a league towards the
episodes,
setting sun.
where
Let's say we take a look. Just
where
on the
each-
safe side.
each character could go to another universe, and it could still be captured by a Squee in universe.
Then lead on, McDuck. Here, let's keep going.
Ah, yes. Now, if I recall correctly, the Mystic Ranger
And she's constantly making pop culture references, and he has no idea what's going on because he lives in an enchanted forest. He's not familiar with human pop culture.
So it was likely to be a while.
Delicious.
Meanwhile, in the mysterious Indigo forest, the dread Catastros had finally broken the helpless Red Ranger.
And as we've now discovered, as of episode 94, with the big reveal with regards to the landlord, the Sumerian Forest, I did draw a deliberate parallel between the Sumerian Forest and the Sumerian planet.
Try to make the horse disappear?
the idea is that
The wound.
the magic.
Chunked out of the horse.
'Tis magic. It need not be explained. But no matter how he
I
tried,
love that exchange too. It's just like,
meanwhile,
wouldn't that
Korak
take
had
a
returned to the underworld,
chunk out
and
of
with some goading from Necrolab, dueled
Um,
against his rival Mordecon until
But
his
yes,
brain
the Sumerian
broke
planet
massive
being
bellows,
where the
forcing them
original
to set the differences aside. But Korak
opening
still
scene
refused to
of
give Megazord
Power Rangers
money,
in Space took
having
place.
already passed
So
it
the
on
idea
to
was
Fear
that,
Control, but then some of the Rangers
as we get the reveal in episode 94, made the Sumerian, the home planet of the Sumerian people, his banquet hall. The idea is that the Sumerian people fled to the Sumerian forest.
After yet another futile attempt
Um,
to kill Catastros, the noble Nick finally relinquished his
And
spirit
and that's
in that
and
moment,
that's the
magic
connection there.
within him was
And yes, I
unlocked.
do know that it is supposed to be
He
Leon
restored
McDuff,
the great beast stallion
but
to his
Lead On McDuff made,
in gratitude.
the paraphrase made sense and made more sense in context than using the actual quote.
His friends were embroiled in a great titan battle with the monster, where the candid
Actually, back in,
experienced a sudden recollection.
Wow, that is some impressive phonetic mastery there.
And
Yeah,
so,
yeah,
as the Red
Chip's
Ranger and
phonetic
Catastros
mastery
battled
is just
across the
ridiculous. That
universe
he
alive,
he remembers it and he can instantly say it backwards, and it's like so difficult to say any word backwards, let alone to make made up one.
I would call that timing out as suspiciously convenient.
But as it stands,
I'll let it pass.
very good. Upon their return, the two merged their powers together, transforming into the magnificent Centaurus Phoenix Megazord, using his flaming lance to do battle. with
And
fierce
as
foes.
and also
I
just
said it was a troll.
with
that was before it grew.
Silly me.
And so, the great red
Um,
Megazord defeated the goal.
and I do enjoy
It set
making
his head on fire.
making the
Yes.
Okay, just checking.
making the reviews work in universe. Like the footage that we're seeing, this is how the squeeze are designed to interpret any description of a Power Rangers episode.
Cold.
So the footage makes sense to exist.
You may make use of my cloak.
Oh no, that didn't. Thank you.
And now we know how Mayo ended up with the cloak that we see her with at the end of 64. Once again, just reinforcing that we're setting up the reveal of the events that led to
Sounds
the
like
end of
some serious
64.
foreshadowing there.
Nick is Korak's son.
Oh, that's a bit of a spoiler.
It's obvious from early on. And with Dave saved, Rodano recounted the now returning
I love how,
What do you think?
like,
And gently reminded
Quandry
him
just spoils,
so
like,
many adventures left.
the entire first half of
And that's
Mystic
the end
Force
of
that
our
way.
tale. So, what did you think?
Well, it was fine.
Really?
Well, it was a little bit contrived. Like how Nick was able to use a vanishing spell to kill Catastros. Or how Chip was able to remember the spell and how to say it backwards at just the right moment for Catastros and Nick to ride through and save the day.
As I live and breathe, that is how it transpired.
Oh, I don't doubt it. I also wish I could have learned a little bit more about the other characters. They seem to have some wacky fun hijinks going on, but I totally get that this was a Red Ranger focus story.
Verily. Very few of their legends are not.
Fair enough. Guess the producers have to
It's
stay
just-
by their marketing department.
This was also
Never mind.
this was also just fun to play around with when it came to figuring out how to analyze an episode through this adventure. Having Quandry present it like it is an actual tale of an adventure that he had truly heard of.
That we have arrived.
I also, as you've probably noticed with a lot of the shots here, I did work on heavily oversaturating a lot of this footage to try and match
No
with
one's
the,
entered temple in 1,000 years.
with the look of the
Not
Sumerian
even
forest
race
in
was
Mystic
as
Forest, which is
deciphered
also
ancient roots.
similarly highly saturated.
Didn't have one of these.
Your spell book.
And with regards to
What
the
does that do here?
giant temple thing,
There are people
it's literally just
deciphering codes
I found a stock photo of a temple in like Cambodia that felt like it would work, and I just added a lens flare on there to make it feel like the sun was behind it.
Aloha Mora. Please?
And as far as how we pulled off some of the other effects,
Come on, let's
um,
go in.
like the base of the base of the temple is literally just like a log we found. The door of the temple was literally a piece of bark that I just moved across the camera. And then this, the interior of the temple, I was originally going to try and make and find a proper setation, a set to place things in, but I couldn't get a good location in time. So I just used our black curtain, that which is basically, it's literally a sheet that I put against the cabinets in the. So this is all in the apartment.
What?
And
what did you do? Come back here.
And I also like having the twist of Quandry being a villain.
No!
And Quandry is trapped within the temple.
I just wanted to go home.
But yeah, that's literally a pair of like TV tables stacked on top of each other with a green sheet on top, and I just doubled that for the two sides to create the green column curtain columns. And the little tease of the spell of transport, which technically speaking Mayo doesn't get to use, but it explains why when she arrives in back in the apartment at the end of 64, why she says, "Oh, this thing works fast." And yes, the tablet did switch out the case to have more of a spellbook case. This was actually an alternate case for the tablet that I believe MJ already had, so that they could bring their tablet with them LARPing and it wouldn't look out of place. And yeah, with all this here, that whole little bit towards the end, I want to establish the existence of a spell of transport right there at the end, even though we don't get to use it at the end of this episode, to set up Mayo being able to escape from Alphabet Soup later on in episode 75, to kind of set or 75 or 76. I'm trying to remember now if they. Oh no, I think it is 76 that they escape. And so I wanted to make sure to have built in for later on when we have the evil, Venjix DB arc, that there would be a reasonable way for them to counter him, because they're going up against a full-on Power Ranger, and with their skill sets that already existed, I didn't see Mayo and Guy being able to meaningfully contribute to defeating evil DB, which is why I felt like Mayo needed some sort of upgrade and Guy needed some sort of upgrade in his fighting skills. And Mystic Force was a season that we hadn't gotten to explore yet, and same thing with Jungle Fury. And they both felt like really good avenues to expand the power sets of these characters. Jungle Fury obviously has the Kung Fu theming, and they often will come up with a whole new set of skills after just a day of training. And Mystic Force meant that Mayo could bring something totally new to the team, which was clearly something that she wanted to be able to do. And having magical powers was something that DB's team didn't have yet. They have a Power Ranger, they have an undercover agent, they have a super scientist, but they didn't have anyone who could do magic. And that felt like a great way to build Mayo up as more of a significant player within the team. Because in many regards, during the first year, she fell into the damsel role, and then she disappeared from the show for a little while before coming back at the end and being able to help out Dr. K with the tech. But the tech was really always more Dr. K's wheelhouse, and it didn't feel right to just have a second Dr. K. I really wanted to create that contrast. And I think that magic was a very good contrast with the science that Dr. K brings to the table. So those were some of the things that really went into this episode. And it ties into clearly a lot more later down the road as the Sumerian Seal that Mayo ends up using later on for the exorcism spell in episode 77 ends up, being the key to winning over the Morpostners, as well as giving us an extra little hint into the true identity of the landlord when he's able to counter the Sumerian seals in episode 90. And I will admit, the connection between the Sumerian seal and the Sumerian planet was one that I decided on later and just happened to be a happy coincidence, because I do remember somebody in the comments in after episode 79 finally came out after the 2-year hiatus that Mayo's exorcism spell felt a little too contrived, and I realized that the Sumerian forest and Sumerian planet could have a connection that would work and make sense as a way to counter the forces of the landlord. And yes, I know Linkara does have that that analysis emphasizing on the balance of magic and technology as themes throughout much of early Power Rangers. So yeah, this episode came together really well. I'm quite pleased with it. It's one of the few that really does stand on its own without just being a traditional review. Ironically, having almost no database in it outside of the opening scenes. And I liked being able to do that. It really felt like I was opening up the universe of Power Reviews, or in this case, the multiverse, by having characters actually travel to Power Rangers dimensions, as we get to see with Mayo in this episode, Guy in the next episode, and very tragically later for Dr. K in episode 73. Oddly enough, throughout the course of Power Reviews, the only main character who hasn't really gotten to visit the Power Rangers, any Power Rangers universes during the course of the show, is the biggest Power Rangers fan. Database has not, at any point in the show up till now, been able to visit one of the universes where Power Rangers are real. Which is not entirely intentional, but feels kind of appropriate, since this is sort of his adventures of a fish out of water, being being the one Power Ranger of the show, being isolated from all other Rangers. Which again is also appropriate with regards to him being the Phantom Ranger, who always sort of stood apart from the other Rangers in many regards. So there's just so many themes I'm really glad that I've gotten to explore with this show, and so many concepts I've gotten to explore with the show, and really dive into a lot of elements of Power Rangers lore and tie them together in in a number of ways that were unexpected even to me. Connecting Power Rangers in space and Power Rangers Mystic Force through the Sumerian forest was something that I hadn't even thought of when starting this series. And I'm glad that I was able to tie in so many different elements of Power Rangers. Jungle Fury is clearly become something that is now closely tied through Guy. Mystic Force is now closely tied through Mayo. We have plenty of stuff with Power Rangers in space tied in through our villains. We have Power Rangers Turbo and space through Phantom Ranger. We have RPM through Dr. K. So many different seasons of Power Rangers get to be tied together this way, and it felt appropriate for a series that I was creating while the 20th anniversary of Power Rangers was happening. Because there were plenty of seasons that did tie together, but then it started to become a little bit more disparate during the later seasons. So, for instance, Mystic Force never really got a proper team-up. Jungle Fury never got a proper team-up. RPM never really got a proper team-up. Those were those were the only 3 seasons at the time that had not had any team ups. There wasn't a team up in Dino Charge either, but obviously Dino Charge Rangers have returned since then. But because those seasons didn't really get proper team ups, I did want to make an effort to tie them a little bit closer to the continuity of the rest of the series. Making Lost Galaxy and the RPM a part of the RPM timeline, making Mystic Force be the source of a major new asset, having Jungle Fury being a major part of Guy's backstory, which we'll talk about next week. All of that was a lot of fun. And again, this also expanded on the character of Mayo, teased her backstory a little bit more, because we had the little hint of Dr. K took care of this stuff with my job as well as that other stuff. And we I used that little clip on a number of occasions in the previously on segments. And then this is where we found out that Mayo is a codebreaker, basically a hacker, which has just not been relevant up until now. And it's not something that she would have made well known. But her ability to immediately crack the code, the cipher on the side of the temple, speaks to her having, very good technical skills similar to Dr. K, if not quite in the same areas and on the same level. And we learn more about Mayo's hacking past when we get into everybody's backstories in episode 87, which is the big, crazy, time storm flashback episode. And so this was sort of working towards that. We've also had little teases before with the name of Mayo's cat being Zagger, which suggests that there was someone similar to Ziggy in her life, who we later discover Freddy Grover, because Ziggy, we realized, is short for Siegfried, and another way that you could abbreviate Siegfried would be Freddy. So I really did want to make sure to put in a lot of work into Mayo's character, to give them a rich backstory, to give them a broad skill set, and to very much make sure that they are their own character and not just a damsel or a love interest. Because I felt like Mayo was drifting into that area during year 1, and I really wanted to avoid falling into those tropes. So there we go. This was Mayo's little adventure through the world of Mystic Force as part of the Summer Saga. And next week we get to check out Guy. So let's tie things off with our remaining 3 equally non-controversial statements. So, number 1, say with me, chat. Love is love. Number 2, say with me, chat. Trans rights are human rights. And number 3, say with me, chat. Robots are cool. And sometimes they deserve to have a little break for an episode or 2. I guess really more of a break for 3 episodes in many regards. As we won't really get a good DB episode again until episode 67, which is, there will be plenty of stories for that one. But thank you again for joining us. I hope that you all have a fantastic week. I hope that within the next week I should have more news on episode 96. But until next time, farewell, Ranger fans, and let the power protect you.